Gentlemen, Dr. Stephen.
Thank you very much. Thank you, my brother. Thank you very much, my brother. James? Yeah. Well, let me leave this one here. My name is Stephen Ola Obifolaji, and I believe I'm the least qualified to even reminisce about Nigerian experience. Because if I call myself a giant, and if I call myself a sergeant, I've got generals here. So what am I going to say that they don't know already? Well, regardless, for posterity's sake, let us just quickly go back to how it was then. As I was born just a few years ago in a small town called Ife. Ife is in the western part of Nigeria. For our new generations that may not know which one is which town in Nigeria. It's in the current Osun State. That's where I was born. And I was, the way it was then, okay, I lost my dad when I was only about, probably about 3 years old. So I hardly knew the man, all right? But I was raised by my mother, single-handedly, who believed that, well, if it's only you that is left, you've got to do the job of the two. So, and she really put all the effort into it to raise me. And my first awareness about making decisions, I remember in Nigeria then, was when I followed my mom to the farm. We go to our farm where my daddy's farm, which he left behind, was being worked on by somebody. They called their contractors. They work on the farm, and whatever they bring at the end of the year, they split it 50-50. So because I happen to be the youngest of the children of the family, my siblings, older siblings, they were all settled in their own relationship. They already got their job and everything, so they don't really need much input anymore from the family. And because I was very much interested in schooling, so what they did was I'll say, well, whatever we realize from this our father's farm, let us use it to support the youngest of us here. Because obviously many of them were not in a position to actually be able to say, I'll take him on, I'll sponsor him. And my mom was not in any situation to do that as well. So they had made that arrangement, which is one of our own social security system we have in Nigeria. When I say we don't have social security, but there's some social security. Even when I remember, when I go back again further, I remember my mom was not even the one that was actually first married my mom, my dad. And she actually came to the family, married the older brother, who died earlier on. And that's why she was bequeathed to my dad. So she had about three kids with the older brother. So she had another 3 children with the younger brother. And the idea in Nigeria is that if now the woman who could not single-handedly work on the farm, if she has lost her husband, we cannot leave her as a widow to be the one sweating. So they will propose to any other young man or eligible bachelor in the family. Are you ready to marry the woman now? Because your brother, that's the husband, has gone. They need a father figure in the life of the children. So there was this informal adoption going on, which growing up as a kid, you never even know. Because they don't treat anybody as different. You don't know that anybody is different. Only later on, when you start digging into history, you begin to now know all this arrangement has been made on your behalf before you were born. But you know what? It worked. It did work. Really, it did work. Because they were able to support, use the family, the land, the estate that the family has is the farm. So they will split it, make sure you work with it. And the woman will now get a man that can actually help to spearhead the work of the farm. So that's the environment where I grew up, and I began to see what was going on. And I remember one day, we were going on the farm. We went to go and get some mangoes and all those things. As we were taking it, and we were taking it back to the farmhouse. And I was just saying, well, when I grow up, Mom, I'm going to actually work on this farm. I'm going to make it really big. And we should have machines working in this farm. My mom just said, just shut up. I said, wow, what have I done wrong? He said, this farm, it belongs to many of you. You can't do that. When you start doing that, that's when the argument will start. That's when all the trouble will start. You are already fairly okay with your education. This is your inheritance you are getting here. And I can remember that very day we were walking, barefooted, of course, in the narrow pathway in the farm. So this is your inheritance you are getting. Whatever you are able to make out of your education, just take it, and you know what, hold your ears and move forward. Because this farm, I'm telling you, so many heads that actually it belongs to, by the time you are saying you want to do that, you're going to run into a lot of problems and all that. And my ambition to be a farmer was just killed that day. But later on I realized that she actually, you know, she made a very good point to me. Because subsequently I saw what developed with that farm. I don't even know. I never even asked them anything for that. But this is the kind of scenario you have where in Africa, a lot of things that we could do for ourselves and improve our lot were not done because of some cultural entanglements here and there, which nobody has found any solution to resolve yet. So then we moved on. And when it was time for me to go to school, in fact, I remember they forgot to register me for primary school education. I was always going to the farm and do that. And then one of our in-laws came one day and said, this boy, which school is he going to attend? I said, no, I'm not even registered. So they forgot. Okay, they said, okay, you know what? I'll come next weekend. I'll take him to one of the primary schools. I'll go and register him. And he came. He took his bicycle. It was on the bicycle we were riding. And as a man, I remember on the bicycle, I was sitting, you know, on that front pole of the bicycle. I was meant to sit and stride like that. On that one, it was a torture to get to that one. Every bump we're going to get into, I said, boy, you sit like that? I have to sit like this. So that it doesn't make me become an Enoch. Anyway, we eventually got to the primary school. They registered me, and they said, now to know if this guy is of age to register, he has to touch his ear from the other side. And they already told me to do it. Don't fail that one. So immediately I got there, I bent my head out. I touched my hair. Then they said, okay, he's of school age. Let's register him. So that's how I was registered. And then the following year, I started the schooling. And the good experience I learned that time was, you know, primary school education was free. It was being run by Methodist primary school and mostly funded by the church, the Methodist church. It was so essentially free. All I needed to do, wear my uniform, come to the school and feed myself. That's all. So it was really free. Nothing else I needed to commit to contribute there. And because if there had actually been any contribution necessary, that would have been the end of my education. Because there's no such thing from home. You just say if it's going to be an extra burden, there's no way we can carry that one. We're struggling just enough to feed this guy. So don't even talk about any other expenses. But thank God, God solved that problem. So we went to that primary school and I finished. And I remember everywhere you have to walk. The school must have probably about 4 kilometers, you know, for a 6-7-year-old to walk that number of kilometers to the school and back in the afternoon. It was quite an effort. But you know, because that's all you're making. Yeah, many of you are on the road. You know, you're doing that walking up and down every day. So you don't really feel it as such because you are talking, you are doing all sorts of things, you are joking, you are playing, and you walk down there, you walk back. So that's how we managed to do that. Then there came a time my brother in Lagos said, okay, maybe this boy should come to Lagos because they thought, as I was now in primary school, I was now around that 11 years old, and they said, this boy being raised by a woman, it can become, you know, too much to handle. It could probably become wayward and all that. They believe it's impossible for a woman to raise a boy, and that this guy would become wayward. So my older brother and I said, okay, let's bring him to Lagos, come and live with me. So I was taken to Lagos and I continued my education, my primary education there. And luckily, the primary education in Lagos was also free. So we carry on. And the one thing I remember about Lagos now is about the Molwe. I don't know if anybody knows the meaning of that Molwe. We know Molwe, but do you know how they came about the word Molwe? Does anybody know? Yeah, I was always curious. Why do you call this thing Molwe? Molwe, you know? And then somebody now told me, yeah, they call it Molwe because they mold the body of the vehicle. There are some companies that after they bought the truck, bare, nothing behind, they just buy semi-trailer, essentially. And then now they put the body, the whole body, the seats, the after covering, the door, the windows, they actually locally manufacture that one. And they call it molding. They're actually molding it as you will mold a pot or something. So now when they bring the new vehicle, and they say, yeah, you got the new vehicle then, go ahead and mold it. Go and mold it. Go to the people that will mold it. And that's how they got it mold well. I said, oh. So every time you get into that mold well, it's always that you got to just go to pray. Because when the vehicle doesn't have any mirror, no rear view mirror, and it's the somebody, the conductor, that will be telling the driver when to actually change lane and when he will be telling you wale kale. When he's telling you, he's changing about 3 lanes on that Lagos road. That's what he's doing. So he's saying you can go to the very end of the lane, that the road is free on this side, so you can go ahead. If the conductor happens to make a mistake, the driver will just crash the vehicle. So I remember going to that one, they would go at high speed. And one of these days, when I was coming in that motorway from one of the events that we went to go and attend, I was doing as I see the conductors before they get to where they're going. They will just jump down and they will just run. And the vehicle eventually will stop. And I said, that one I can do it too. Me too, as a young fella, I went to that place and I just jumped down. The way I fell down and I slide on the side of the road. It brought so much to my hand. When I got home and my brother saw it, he said, "You jumped down from the motorway." I couldn't even lie because he saw it. That's what happened. When you jump down from motorway, it's going to drag you on. So I went that experience and I learned my lesson. So eventually I went back to Ife to carry on with my secondary school education. And it will have, my secondary school education will have finished right at that point. But if not for the government that was in power then, my brother was talking about the UPN and the NPN of 1979. That was when they came to power, and they started this free universal primary education in Western Nigeria and in Eastern Nigeria as well. Not so much in the north, but that party UPN actually won in the eastern and the western part of Nigeria. And they implemented this universal primary education and secondary education. And what they did, they will say, okay, you come to the secondary school, you don't have to pay tuition, and we'll give you books. And they even serve food. For those who are actually saying the problem is that we don't have the money to give to the child to go to school to have a meal, they will serve food. In the school where I went, they were doing that. So they give us books. All the books are pack them at the beginning of the year and take it back home. If not for that free education, that would have been the end of my education as well. But luckily they stepped in, and that gave me the opportunity to go to school. I said, okay, I can go to school. So I finished that one. And by the time I finished my year 12, which what we call year 12 now, that's Form 6, Form 5, I think it's Form 5 then. Form 5 we were doing that time. So they said that program was then beginning to wind down, the party was beginning to change down, and the military, that was the time when the Yagban and whatever, they were taking over power. So they reversed some of those policies. The other thing that actually was happening in the community that also influenced me, you see, a child, I believe there are many children that are much more brilliant than many of us that are here, but they are not given the opportunity. Those of us that are given the opportunity, I believe we are lucky. And it's just unfortunate that those of us who actually benefited from the system, where again, for some reason, we drifted out of that system. So we are not able to put much back into that very system which helped us. That hurts my mind all the time when I think about it, that we are among those that we can say Nigeria still benefited. Though we are about the tail end, there are some people that benefited much more before us, but we are probably at the tail end of those who are actually benefiting from that system there. But look at all of us, we left. For circumstances which again I will mention later on. Then eventually I finished the secondary school education, and for some reason I was looking for a job, and I met one man. This man actually got a job as a school search. You can get a job in Nigeria, a fairly well-paying job at that time. So we got a job for my friend. And my friend, I was living with my friend, we were just mates, we lived together in one room. So on the day when they employed this guy, they gave him the letter of employment. When they brought it home, I was the one that was at home. He wasn't at home. So I collected the letter. And when I collected the letter, since this letter of his employment, he has to go and start next week as a job as a lab assistant in the University of Ife. They call it University of Ife that time. They later became Obafemi University. And I said, and then the man asked, I said, how about you? Have you finished, sir? I said, I finished, sir. He said, how about your results? Where are they? Okay, I said, let me just go and get it. So I went inside, I gave it to him. He said, wow. He said, hey, everywhere. He said it would be a sin for a child like this to be allowed to roam the street. That was his comment. He said it would be a sin. Let me get it. I'll see what I can do about it. When immediately I gave him this, I just came and I said, oh God, thank you. Oh, I got somebody to help me. Because in Nigeria at that time, if you don't have connection, if you don't have somebody, you get nowhere. No matter what you do. Your certificate might be whatever it is, it will rot there. They will not do anything about it. So to get somebody to actually ask me to go and bring my certificate out and saw something good in it, I believe this is God's doing. I thank God. I was just praying. So he took it. Within 2 weeks, he got a job for me, and I was able to start working as a lab assistant. And at that time, we were getting 180 naira or so per month. 180. It was 180. You remember? And a push bike, a motorbike. I think they were selling a motorbike for just about maybe 500 or 600 naira. A Suzuki or Yamaha or whatever, they were selling for that. So within 3 months, if you save very well, within 3 months or 4 months, you can buy your own motorbike and you'll be fine. So that was kind of amount. But me, because I had other ambition, I had other idea about what I wanted to do, what I did was that I made a budget. I would be living only on, I think I saved about maybe 30% or so, 30% of that money. And the remaining 70% is going to go towards my education. So that was what I was doing. I was saving. And all that time, people just saw, there's not much change in the life of this guy. They say he got a job. But I had my own idea anyway, because this is one thing I got now, I got to make use of it. So I was saving. It was so easy to save in Nigeria at that time, really. Because to feed yourself, it doesn't cost much. You can buy a whole plate of amala and meat and everything for probably 30 kobo or 20 kobo, and you'll be fine. But of course, we don't even mention kobo anymore in Naira now. So this is how we're managing, and until after I've worked for about 18 months or so, then I said, I got to go to the uni. I have to go to the uni. I can't stay here. When I mentioned it to my older sister, he said, I want to go to uni. He said, what? I was waiting for you to talk about when you're going to marry and settle, and you're okay now, you're working, you're doing all those things. I said, marry with a school start. That's not going to take me anywhere. He said, why not? The highest anybody has done in this family is primary school, and they're doing well, according to our own standard. I said, no, I'm going to go. He said, going there, that's a lot of problem. Now, where is the money going to come from? The farm that was supporting you when you were in the high school, that farm is now finished now. There's nothing growing there. They didn't maintain it, they didn't manage it well. So where are you going to get the money? I said, well, I made a comment. I said, I cannot forgive myself if I don't give it a try. If I give it a try, if I have to quit that school because of lack of money, at least I can forgive myself. I can say, yeah, I tried. I did this, I did that. I've saved some money, auntie. I've saved some money. That money might not be able to take me too far to the end of the course, but I've actually saved some money. He said, really? Okay, you want to try? But it's on your own, no? I've told you. So that was why I just took the exam, and luckily I passed the exam. I got to the university. They took me for medicine, and we started. And I started, I was even managing that work part-time, but eventually the professor of that department said, hey, look, we hardly see you around here. Most of the time you are attending courses. I heard you got admission. You can't continue that one, so you got to resign. I resigned, okay, resign, I got to go. As I was resigning, I was, tearful. I'm leaving certainty for uncertainty, but I believe God will help me. I believe God will help me. I've always, had that thing and just be positive in my outlook. So I left and I went to, I carry on with my studies and I resigned. And I was spending the money, and just like drips of the candle, it was just going until after about 2 years, when I finished year 2, the money just finished. And I said, hey, what am I going to do now? But luckily again, at the university, you don't pay tuition. You don't pay for books. You don't pay for access to library. You don't pay for anything. It was, again, free. All I needed to do was just to come here, feed myself, house myself. That's all I needed to do. In terms of books, you can borrow books. I borrow books from friends. Anytime they want to go and do an exam, I will be preparing for the exam we're going to do. Maybe in 3 weeks, I'll prepare for it now. Because I know closer to that time, the owner of the books, they're going to want their books. So I better do advanced digging and make my jotting and everything and leave the book. So I do my own in reverse to kind of complement what they are doing. So Nigeria at that time still favor you to make your effort. little room for you to maneuver. There's still little room for you to wiggle. So that's how we did it. And then, luckily for me, every time we were on holiday, and that was the time they were doing a lot of rustication. When we were demonstrating, again, Ali must go, all those kind of stuff. They rusticated, especially in Ife. They rusticated us for months and months. Those months, what I do, I go and start working. I work part-time. There, one of my friends had a primary school or secondary school. Please, when my time is getting up, please let me know. But I think you will just, okay, all right. So I just go and do the work. I'll quickly save some money, and my friend will pay me to be a teacher. I'll teach all these children. I teach them maths, I teach them science, I teach them anything. They give me money. And those friends, I remember at that time, they will say, don't spend your money. We know you are in school. You are only here to come and work for us for this your holiday. You don't spend your money. So they provide the money that I spend for food, for everything. All the money I make, I save. By the time they say, okay, come back to the uni now, the trial is over and everything, I already have some money. So I go back to school. That's the money I will again use until we are on holiday. So this is how I was managing. And the only reason why that was possible was because cost of living was not that high. So if I just make those little effort, it was just enough. It was just enough. There's still room for ordinary person to actually migrate up in the society, because there are all these nooks and crannies that you can hide in. So we finished the university, and my dream, and the reason why I actually focused on education that time was because I remember walking all around in Ife. You walk, just no vehicle whatsoever to move around, and that used to frustrate me. There was a particular incident. I was walking with my mom. We were going to another family house, which was probably about 3 or 4 kilometers away. And I told her, I said, I'm tired of walking all the time. We're gonna at least join a taxi. And she said, okay, we'll join a taxi. All right. We got to outside the house on the street, and I said, let's stay here and get a taxi. She said, no, the taxi will not stop here, because I was so little. I was probably about 6 or 5 or something. So he said, taxi, give me somewhere there, we get a taxi. Then we walk there. He said, I said, let's still stay here and get a taxi. He said, no, we can't stop here. We'll walk a little bit further. We're going to get a taxi there. And then I walk again. Then when I get there, I said, I suddenly realized we're almost at the house, because I've been there. I said, now I'm not going anywhere anymore. I'm going to sit down here. How can you be treating me all this time to go to a taxi when you didn't actually mean the way taxi? I didn't know the poor woman didn't have money. And she wanted me to be there. So she was just trying to, coax me along. So, of course, you sit down there and you say, I said, what's wrong with your son? He said, he's not following you. I said, don't mind him. He's looking for taxi. We are almost where we're going. This is where we're going, is almost there. But that's not the arrangement we made at home. You said we're going to have a taxi. And then when I look back also, I realized also when eventually I travel, I go to South Africa. The first thing I was looking for is to get my car. I want to get my car down. Because I remember that time I used to tell my mom that I was going to get my car. As soon as I'm able to, I'm going to get my car. So the day I got to South Africa, it was a car. Car. It was a car for a little while and dispose of it. The same mentality still even affected me when I came to Australia. It's my car. Number one, my car. Because I realized that thing was in my mind. That this idea of walking, I'm sick of it. And what you actually go through as a kid, it can actually affect the way eventually you'll be able to have the opportunity. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has influenced my life, but I also realized that it has also helped me to actually make my ambition even bigger still. Because the one who see the society, I see all these men, they will bring their family to the market and they will buy all the stuff they want to buy. They put in the boot of the car and their wife, and they drive safely back to the university. And I said, when we buy Gary, I have to carry Gary on my head. To back home. When we buy issue, the yam, I have to carry on my head. Look at these people, they don't have 2 heads. How come? Then my mom said, they are well educated. These people you are seeing, they are PhD holders, they are professors, they are this, and that's it. And I said, okay, if that is it, then I'm going to sit down and face this my education, because I want to be like this one. So it helped me to create the ambition, and thank God Nigeria gave me the opportunity to be where I am. So for our younger ones, we got to know they are in a very good environment, much better than from where we started. And you can be the best that you can be, even higher than we have ever been. And I pray that God will help you all. I pray and help us all in Jesus' name.